District 3. As you probably know, we are in summer recess from the legislature, which means we're working hard in district, catching up on a lot of things in the community, which has been really great. It's been good to see a number of you out and about at a number of community events. But just wanted to highlight a couple of things. One, just to reiterate that, I am one of your voices in Lansing and definitely want to continue to be of service, so please don't hesitate to reach out. I think many of you have my contact information, but I'll make sure to circulate my business cards just in case. But for those who are either watching or are here, our district office number is 313-922-6949. And our website is senatorstephaниechang.com. Also, one quick announcement is that we've been having coffee hours twice a month, and our next one is pretty close by. It's on August 7th at 11 a.m. at Hazel Perk Cafe. So folks are always welcome to join us for those as we go more in depth into updates and really to hear from folks in the community about any ideas or questions. And then I think, one big highlight that folks are very aware of most likely is that we passed the budget, both the school budget and the omnibus budget at the state level, which both include a lot of really historic investments in schools, historic investments in infrastructure, a lot of really great things around energy and the environment, mental health, workforce, healthcare, housing, just the list goes on. We are very proud of the work that we did in the budget, and we'll continue, I hope, to really make progress through the budget. And as you know, the budget is a reflection of our values. So in the new makeup of the legislature, we've been working really hard to make sure that the things that we care about and Michiganders care about are reflected in that budget. So very excited about that work. The school budget was just signed last week, and it's very exciting. And then a couple other really quick, just legislative things to be aware of. You might have seen that we passed a number of bills that just got signed into law a couple days ago, or maybe it was last week, I can't remember, around Proposal 2 implementation. So last November, Michigan voters voted on Proposal 2, which did a lot around our election laws, but then we realized that we need to actually change our election laws to make sure they match what's now in our Constitution. So those bills included more detail around the drop boxes, around the early voting, around expanding what kinds of ID can be considered as voter ID, and a number of other things. So we know that our clerks obviously we're paying close attention to those bills, but if there are things that we can help with to further refine or clarify in those bills, definitely let us know. But very, very excited about those bills because they, I think, will continue to enact, the changes that Michigan voters really wanted in terms of making sure that we're increasing access to our democracy. And then I'm really proud of the work that I helped lead around a sexual assault prevention and education package, which was bipartisan, and worked on this for 5 years. Was never able to get it quite across the finish line, but finally did that this year, and I think will make a big, big difference in terms of helping prevent sexual assault, which is unfortunately far too common in our communities. And then the last thing that I just wanted to highlight, because I know a number of folks really just care a lot about climate change and making sure that we are doing a lot to improve our environment. We have a really big package of bills related to codifying the governor's My Healthy Climate Plan, which includes everything from renewable energy, increasing that goal, increasing the energy waste reduction goal, to how we look at how the Michigan Public Service Commission evaluates the different electric utilities plans, and a number of other things that I think will really move us forward. So expect to see a lot of work on that this fall in Lansing. And if you, as you watch that discussion in Lansing, have any feedback, ideas, questions, concerns, definitely feel free to reach out. There's many, many other things that we're all working on. I'm working on a lot of stuff, but those are 3 sort of legislative highlights that I wanted to share. And just again, really wanted to reiterate that, want to be of service, please feel free to contact me anytime.
Thank you, Senator Chang. Appreciate it. All right. Next up, we have meeting open to the public. This is the opportunity for the public to speak. I ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes and you address me. And with that, I open the floor. Seeing no one wishing to speak, I'm going to close the floor, and we're going to move on to our consent agenda. This evening, there are 4 items. We have the Michigan Employees Retirement System delegates and alternates to the annual meeting, City Council special meeting minutes from July 10th, and the regular meeting minutes from July 10th, as well as 4B, which was added this evening for the appointment to the Arts Board. Can I get a motion from council to approve?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor,
Yes.
support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries. Next up, we have the bid awards purchases. There are 3. First, we have from the CED Director, the MHDDA 11-mile streetscape, road streetscape plan. Ms. Marsh?
The fiscal year 2024 Downtown Development Authority budget included $50,000 for the development of a downtown streetscaping plan. At the February 14th DDA meeting, the board directed staff to develop an RFP that was issued in April with a deadline to submit on June the 1st. One proposal was received by the deadline from Norwick and Frous, who partnered with MKSK Planning and Urban Design. Staff then met with Norwick and Frous and MKSK to review all the steps of the proposal and discuss the DDA's vision and deliverables, including possible cost savings. A revised plan was then submitted and will include a general streetscaping overview of 11 Mile from Stevenson to Lorenz. Also included in the proposal would be a detailed design for 11 Mile near Lorenz. On July 18th, the DDA approved a revised proposal for the DDA 11 Mile Road streetscaping plan for a cost not to exceed $100,000 and approved at a budget amendment increasing the line item contractual services to the DDA budget for an additional $50,000. Therefore, staff recommends that City Council concur with the recommendation of the DDA and approve a budget amendment to increase contractual services. The account number is 248-863-818-0000 by $50,000, and approve a contract with Norwick and Frous for the DDA 11 Mile streetscaping plan.
All right, thank you. What is the wish of council?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move that council concurs with the recommendation of the Madison Heights DDA for the revised proposal for the MHDDA 11 Mile streetscape plan for a cost not to exceed $100,000 and to approve an amendment to the DDA budget, increasing the line item for contractual services to number 248-863-818-0000 with an additional $50,000 contingent on legal review of the services agreement between MHDDA and Norwick Frous for the plan.
Wow.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor,
Yes.
support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded.
Your
Is, sorry.
Just, legal review is no longer required. That is complete. We have a standing contract with Norwick and Frous that actually this will be under, so that needs to
I
be removed
adjust
from
my
the motion.
amendment, my motion to
Remove legal review.
take off the legal review.
Support agrees?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes.
just 2 clarifications. First, this is out of the DDA's account, correct?
Yes.
And the second, as I'm looking through this proposal, it looks like we're spending $30,000 before we even, before the DDA would even get any concepts drawn and delivered.
So a lot of
Am I
work.
misreading that, or?
A lot of work is done with community engagement, talking to staff, understanding what the vision is, because we don't want a plan that doesn't agree with what the DDA is envisioning to begin with. So there is a lot of back-end work before we ever get the first designs.
How does this, Your Honor, how does this compare to the sign replacement and that contract, and what we're doing with all of the engagement and planning as a part of the concepts for changing our welcome signs?
So this engagement is way more in-depth than that. So we envision, and we did reduce the,
Cost.
I was pulling it up because the proposal actually was revised. But we reduced the amount of community engagement, but there is, like, these meetings are with the stakeholders, so that actually are business owners in the DDA and people that live in that area. So there is a lot of engagement on that end, unlike the sign, which we put together a group from interested, areas. and kind of had a meeting more direct about that.
Your Honor?
Would help.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to understand the value of that $30,000. Because the line items are prepping for the kickoff meeting, and a corridor walkthrough, 3 biweekly coordination meetings, preparation of deliverables, that's $14,000. And I guess I'm not understanding what we get for that, other than like a few meetings.
Well, we're not going to get anything physical for task 1 or task 2. That is for them to gain an understanding of what we want to see in the future in the DDA and what the stakeholders get an understanding of what we are doing there, because staff can't just meet with them and fast track a plan and then go to the DDA and say, here, this is the changes we're going to make in this area. I think we really need buy-in. So, and I mean, I can defer to Giles as well, and maybe he can explain it a different way, because he actually worked with them on revising it. Originally, this was almost double the cost, and so they cut this down. They cut the number of stakeholder meetings down to 1 and agency group meetings down to 1.
I'll just make this comment. This is a large undertaking. Prior to being on council in 2016, I think that was the last time the DDA had any kind of community engagement and outreach. And I attended that meeting, and I'm not sure what came of it. So there's been a lot of discussion over the last few years about what we want to do. And one of the things that has held us back is lack of funding. And finally, for the first time in 10 years, we have the funding there. The initial, I believe this was 150 or closer to 200,000. It was significantly more. And we all looked at it and said, is there anything we can do to reduce that? We still want the engagement. So there was a lot of discussion that went on with that. But we keep talking about how we want to do something in our DDA. And we either need to move forward with it, or we're going to be sitting here saying we need to do something. And this was kind of it. And I don't know, Giles, if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, so to address more of the items in task 1 and 2, there is a lot of preparation. And to give it an analogy with the gateway signage project that you're working on, the difference you're seeing here is that you're going to have an engineering firm and a planning firm assessing the existing pedestrian infrastructure. That includes all your signage, your crosswalks, the size of your sidewalks, your corners, existing medians. And in order to come up with a plan that makes sense for both the businesses that are on that area, but also creating a plan that connects our neighborhoods, we need to get a solid understanding of what the existing infrastructure is. And that also includes our transportation infrastructure, such as, we have several smart bus stations at that spot. We have traffic lights that are there. There's above ground utilities. So that's the background information that would go in. And then based off that information in meetings with staff, they would come up with conceptual designs. And then at that point in time, we're meeting with stakeholders and we're trying to get preferences and we're pushing along a plan that would move forward. But in general, the way to look at the plan is that you're essentially getting a master level plan of 11 Mile. You're getting a corridor plan. And then later, you're getting a focus area plan that includes conceptual engineering. The reason why we did this is that you're going to get a plan that we can use for a long period of time, but you're also going to get a focus area towards the end of the year, so we're able to reach next year's grant cycle for SEMCOG's Transportation Alternatives Program and other related pedestrian-friendly grant opportunities. So we designed this plan to be general enough to cover the 11-mile corridor, but more focused enough to get us started on grant writing and implementing some of the projects or the designs that we come up with in the next 6 months.
Your Honor.
Yes.
Is it okay? Are you done with your line? When I look at this, I really do see, in my experience, if you create a plan without knowing where you're going, it's going to be a problem, right? And to me, these first 2 tasks are really like identifying backing out, seeing the whole thing, and then saying, okay, this is where we need to go based on all of the feedback. And without that, the rest of the plan doesn't make any sense. So even though the deliverables aren't necessarily these tangible things that you walk away with, they are very much in the scope of like a good project planning. So to me, this seems like a right on par with what we need to be doing.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Bliss? is there
Your
any
Honor,
questions?
I will just close out in saying that I don't disagree. All of those line items are necessary. I just think we're being overcharged for them. You know, you've got a handful of meetings. We could do a Survey Monkey, publish that. I mean, we've done several for multiple master plans in the city for a lot less than what this is, for a more concentrated geographic region. That's my only note on it. I just think it might be a little overpriced.
All right. Any other comments?
You know, I have to agree with the councilman. And so this is like 2023, and we're still like at the starting line. I don't understand that either. And Frouts has been around for I don't know, since forever.
1997.
So why weren't we doing this prior?
Well, so the DDA hasn't had the funding to do this before. So the DDA only gets incremental tax, so it only gets a small portion. And actually, during the recession, the DDA almost went broke. It did not have any money. So it basically, when you establish a DDA, you set the taxable value, and then the DDA gets to capture any growth ahead of that. So as it grew incrementally, they got to capture a little bit. During the recession, it actually dropped below that base taxable value, so they didn't have any money. It has only been since 2019 that the DDA has started to accumulate some funds, and that really is a testament to the DDA board that refocused themselves and started saving for things like this. And so they have talked for years about actually building a DDA to making it more walkable, and you're never going to get there without a plan. To Giles's point, we have grant opportunities all the time, but if we don't have a plan and we don't have the engineering and we don't have the cost, we can't submit for those grants. We're not successful. So we have to have this work done in order to open those funding opportunities to our DDA, but only in the past, like 3 to 4 years, has the DDA accumulated enough money to do this. So the DDA currently has about $300,000, and the first step of it is to do the plan. The second step is to try to find grants where we have matching opportunities. The SIMCOG grant that Giles was talking about, we have a very good chance of getting that grant. We've already started doing the groundwork of it, but it takes 20% money from the city, 80% money from SIMCOG, so that $200,000 is going to be leveraged for things like that. So we haven't had the financial ability to do this until now. And I can't speak for administrations before me as to why not, but this has really been our focus. And we did work, so the original proposal was about $150,000. We met with them, re-scoped in exactly what we wanted, so they have a very clear vision of what we want and what the DDA wants and what we're going to get back in deliverables. So it is billable by the hour, so if we're going along and we realize that we don't need this much engagement, or that, we have one engagement meeting and nobody shows up, then, it's not going to be $18,000. But this is just in their experience what they think that it takes.
Your Honor,
Yes.
with that context, I will support it. I would just urge staff and our DDA to limit some of those costs and try to do it as cost effectively as we can.
Always.
I completely agree. I mean, this started, okay, so it was 150, and we all looked at it, and we're like, is there any way we can cut some of this out? And we were able to. Any other comments?
I will just add one thing. This is a budget amendment, and it does require 5 yes votes. So
Okay, so we need a supermajority. All right, any other comments? All right, with that, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those against say no. All right, motion carries 7-0. Thank you. And on behalf of the DDA, of which I am a part, and Mike Van Buren, our chair, who is in the room, I say thank you. Next up, we have from the Director of Public Services, the scheduled replacement of sweeper number 402.
Fiscal year 2024 budget includes the second phase funding for the scheduled replacement of street sweeper 402, which is a 2017 Elgin crosswind. Although Elgin has been a tried and true preferred brand for many years, staff continuously investigates other options in the marketplace to determine both the best value for the money and the machinery that will best fit the city's needs. In addition to demoing different brands of sweepers, it is our practice to employ different sweeping technologies to ensure that we are able to handle a wide variety of routine and unexpected debris in the roadway through our sweeping program. To that end, the replacement is being employed as a mechanical broom sweeper as opposed to the City Cat, which is just a vacuum sweeper. This technology allows for the collection of much larger debris while still doing well on the finer cleaning. Staff demoed multiple options and determined that the Butcher Max Power E35M would be the best fit for our needs. This sweeper is available on the Co-Pro competitive bid. Additionally, MTech is offering a significant trade-in of $50,000 for our existing machine. Therefore, staff recommends that council award the purchase of one Butcher Max Power E35M sweeper as quoted to MTech of Cleveland, Ohio, in the total amount of $297,000 inclusive of trade-in. Funding is budgeted and available for this purchase.
All right, thank you. What is the request of council?
Your Honor,
Doug?
I'd like to make a
Councilwoman.
motion that we award the purchase of one Butcher Max Power E35M sweeper as quoted to MTech of Cleveland, Ohio, in the total amount of $297,000, inclusive of the trade-in.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor,
Yes,
support.
thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Yeah, if the new chief, can you, I have a question for him. So, I'm not sure if, you weren't here at that meeting, but we spent a lot of money on another sweeper, I guess it was. It was, was that the same thing? Do you remember?
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Street Sweeper 408 was most recently replaced. We have two street sweepers. They generally have a service life of about 5 to 7 years. We just replaced Sweeper 408. This is 402.
So 408, what was the cost of that? That was like the same price or something, wasn't it?
It was actually under budget. That one was 200 and I don't have it in front of me. I want to say it was in the
But
240s.
around that ballpark?
Yes.
I mean, that's really expensive. I mean, are we really getting our bang for the buck?
I definitely think we are. The sweepers, unfortunately, they do cost a large amount of money. They're very technical machines. We have found the Elgin actually is being forecasted at $334,000. So this one, with no guaranteed trade-in. So this was definitely the less expensive of the two options. We also tested a Global. That was right around the 330, 340 range. Timco, we didn't have a response on. But we're replacing them at the 5 to 7 year mark because we find after that point, the maintenance costs absolutely explode. We're getting to the point where we're putting about $10,000 a year to keep them on the road right after that 7 to 8 year mark. So that's why it's up for replacement now and hoping to. Ordering it now, we will have it in March, which puts it right at that 7 year sweet spot where it's not eating us out of house and home maintenance, the current Elgin.
And so why do you have two? Is it one on the north and one's on the south, or what?
Yeah, we, either north
One
and
can't
south
do the
or-
job?
Hmm?
One can't do the job?
Typically not geographically, no. Then we also have one in residential, one will be in industrial if we're caught up on the residential.
So which one is that? The one that we just purchased?
They trade back and forth.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments? All right, I do have one question for Mr. Valentine. For a city that is 7 square miles, is this typical to have two?
At least two, yes.
At least two. So there are other cities of similar size that have more.
Yes.
Okay.
They will typically use smaller sweepers.
Okay.
But then they are packing out quicker. They have to make more trips back to the yard. We typically find we can do, because we sweep, we have 5-day-a-week garbage routes. Running two sweepers through the garbage routes, we're able to complete the routes and then get to the point where we can also do our majors and industrials with the two sweepers that we have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Valentine. there any other questions or comments? Or-
I have one question, Your Honor.
Yes.
So are you saying, just to clarify, we sweep at least once a week, or how often again, just for the record, how often are we sweeping?
Typically twice a month. As part of our MS4 permit, which is our stormwater permit to discharge water to the state, we have to sweep our streets. As part of our plan, we sweep the streets at least twice a month, and also our school parking lots, because they're nested under that jurisdiction, we do them twice a year as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, thank you, Mr. Valentine.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no other comments, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no.
No.
All right, motion carries 6-1, thank you. All right, and then also from the Director of Public Services, scheduled replacement of truck number 415.
It's like the agenda of purchases. It's the start of our fiscal year. Truck 415 is a 2002 medium-duty GMC stake truck, which is used for multiple purposes year-round, including chipping, general debris hauling, and transport of large materials for the water main project. Service and parts for this class of truck are no longer exist from GMC, and at 21 years of age, this truck has reached poor condition and warrants replacement. Considering the multi-purpose nature of this truck, DPS staff felt the most practical option for its replacement would be to purchase a swap loader setup. This is an innovative technology that forgoes the fixed body construction in favor of a loading platform. The desired body components are mounted on a skid, which can be loaded and unloaded to the truck as needed. This allows the city to obtain substantial value and use from this truck, as one chassis can perform multiple functions. Staff therefore recommends that council award the purchase of one Ford F-550 chassis and Apparoll swap loader setup as quoted by MTech of Cleveland, Ohio, in the amount of $174,756. Budget is available, and the budget is available for
Funding to
this
this.
purchase.
All right, thank you. What is the wish of council?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I wish these had easier names, but I move that we approve the purchase of one Ford F-550 chassis and Amprol swap loader as quoted to MTech of Cleveland, Ohio, in the amount of $174,756.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor,
Yes.
all support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. That is it for bids and awards. Next up, we have ordinance 2194, interference with police. This is the first reading that was postponed from June 12th.
On June the 6th, City Council reviewed the proposed ordinance 2194, interference with police, that would amend the city's ordinance section 20-1. This ordinance addresses a misdemeanor offense probations to conduct that interference with the discharge of duties by police officers and those empowered with similar legal authority. Violations under the current ordinance include resisting and hindering, assisting with the attempt to escape custody, providing someone in custody an item that will assist in the escape from confinement, or personally attempting to escape from custody. Section 20-1 is divided into several subsections, A through E, and amendments have only been submitted to subsection A. At this June 6 meeting, City Council requested that this amendment go before the city's Crime Commission and the city's Human Relation and Equity Commission for review. Neither commission objected to the inclusion of providing false information to the ordinance. It was recommended that the pronouns within the ordinance be altered from him and his to them and their. These alternatives have been made and the revised ordinance presented for consideration to council. Additionally, the HREC made recommendations regarding the format of the ordinance structure to subdivide its contents and address the placement of commas and other grammatical elements. Being that the proposed amendment already is in subsections in the Code of Ordinances, addressing these changes would require further revisions to subsections B through E of the ordinance. Additionally, is the opinion of the city's legal counsel that the suggested grammatical revisions by the HREC would create potential confusion of the plain language intent of the ordinance with jurors at trial, as well as judges reviewing the trial motions or handling appeals, thereby actually placing the city in more adverse position when it comes to prosecuting these cases. This ordinance otherwise has been amended and presented to reflect the original submission to the council. The submitted language is recommended to be approved based upon the current language of the ordinance, having survived past criminal appeals and being consistent with state law, as well as neither the Crime Commission or the HRC objecting to the inclusion of providing false information as prohibited conduct under the ordinance. The language as submitted in the attached document is recommended for approval upon council on the first reading and scheduled second reading for August the 14th of 2023.
All right, thank you. What is the wish of council?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I move the council approves ordinance 2194 on its first reading and schedules second reading for August 14th of 2023.
All right, thank you. Is there support?
Your Honor,
Yes.
I'll support.
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor?
Yes.
Maybe I missed it in the staff report, but my biggest issue with how it's written is still here. It says two things. First, it says, "No person shall resist any police officer," and resist is semi-defined later on, but it's so broad that I think we can do better. And the second piece, it's any member of the police department or any person duly empowered with police authority without qualification. And so that concerns me. I think it leaves us open for a significant issue down the road. I get the intent of stopping people from providing false information, but I think the broadness of "no person shall resist a police officer" is an issue. What does resist entail? That, to me, is a question that needs to be answered. And I get that this would be litigated, and I get that that question would be decided by a judge and jury. But we could do better in writing this, can't we?
So I'm going to actually ask our attorney to comment on that because I'm not a lawyer.
The ordinance, as we presented it to you today, is consistent with state law. We'd like to keep it consistent with state law. I've had 2 appeals in the last 6 months that have made it to appellate courts challenging the issue the commissioner has objected to today, and we have won on both appeals, saying that it was a clear enough intent for determination on the matter. So based upon that, we've won an appeal on the matter, and it's consistent with state law. I believe it's always better to keep things as they are versus to try to change them around to a point where it could put us in a not as good or favorable position in the future.
So is it your legal opinion, Mr. Burns, is it your legal opinion that if we were to change the definition as being suggested by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, that it would actually put us in more of a legal predicament potentially?
Right now, we are in a good, we know we have standing where it is, where it's been already defended. If we were to alter or try to amend in different ways, it could potentially create difficulties. That's why it's our staff recommendation to leave as is.
All right, and this now mirrors the state?
Correct. There's state law that this is equivalent to. State law actually is a felony. We make this as a misdemeanor so that we have more flexibility in cases, not to always send them up to the county prosecutor. This gives us more opportunity to have equitable outcomes for people who are dealing in the legal system through the district court, as well as preserves that fees and fines from the matter support the local court and the city instead of going up to the county budget.
Your Honor,
Mr. Wright?
I just wanted to clarify, because when this became before the HRC, I think a lot of us had a pause for no person shall resist that language, but we were told we're just looking at the including providing false information. And so, I mean, was it just that phrase, or, because there was a lot of concern, and we thought we understood that the intent was so we could keep things at the local level to address. And so I just want to just reaffirm that is the case.
The only change that has been made to this ordinance, which has been in place for a significant amount of time, is that it adds providing false information. And the reason we were doing that is because we've seen an ongoing pattern of, in criminal investigations and arrests, people making intentionally false statements that have led to police time in investigating, to look for potentially other potential suspects, other potential victims. And we want to make sure that that type of behavior is being held accountable for in the matter. And there's some question about whether or not that was considered hindering police. Unfortunately, in today's society, truthfulness has become somewhat of a question mark, and we want to make sure that if the factual basis, whether it's video documentation, admissions by parties, or multiple witnesses, show that there isn't a factual basis for information that the police are being hindered by in their investigation process, that we can hold people accountable for that behavior. Again, we're not looking to escalate and create more charges, but we want to make sure when the circumstance presents itself, we can handle that under the current ordinance in that manner. But again, this is a clear way to keep the ordinance and just further define it a little bit. I also want to point out that this is interfering with, if someone was to be charged with this and get a conviction on it, the conviction would say interfering with police. So if you're saying resisting, harassing, interfering, providing false information, someone's not going to get convicted of this, and it's going to say in some sort of police report they resisted the police. That is an element for proving that they interfered with police. So breaking down into the different further categories starts to create confusion when we have an issue of, do they have to do all of these things? Do they do one of these things, the element? The way this is this one subcategory of the interfering with police that says if you do these things, that's one, then you interfered. But it doesn't break down further in any sort of report or anything that, you're going to get in trouble for specifically doing this element of the crime. So we're not going to be saying, oh, well, you resisted or you lied. That doesn't make a breakout. That just shows what we need to prove that they interfered with the police officer. I'm not sure if I'm communicating that, but did that make sense?
I think you provided a lot of information. Yeah, to clarify, I just wanted to make sure this is just to keep it at locally under our prosecution instead of having to go to a state level. That was the intent of changing that.
Exactly.
Okay.
And there's two different state laws that are felonies. This puts it into one local ordinance that we can work with to try to get a resolution at the local level.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor?
Mr. Bliss?
Yeah, I think I might be a little too much of an idealist, but I understand that line was there before. Previous council adopted that line. But then this new verbiage along with that line was presented to this council. And I have a hard time thinking that this council is okay with no person shall resist any police officer. When we talked about this the last time, I and others on council had asked that it be sent to the boards with all of the context. Anywhere it says that we should pull that out. And we should clarify, because just because a council from decades ago wanted to keep it super broad, that could be used in a very negative way. I mean, what is resisting in a peaceful protest, for example? What charges could be brought? And I get it that, this is what state law is, and it's worded after state law. I mean, I'd have to see the examples side by side. I don't have it. But if that is state law, then state law has a problem. And I think if we are going to update this at all, and I'm fine with doing this in a multi-step process, but I think we need to define what does resist actually mean? What are the types of charges that police officers 20, 30 years from now are going to abide by? Because, I don't know, we've seen some issues even in our own city, and I don't like the openness of this. So I will be a no. I'm hoping that in the time between passing tonight and getting to the second reading in a couple of weeks, we'll be able to put a little bit more emphasis on that. But just the answer of, this was here, we're only changing this one piece down here, that doesn't appease me.
Your Honor.
Yes.
I would like to have the motion or the ordinance tabled for advice of counsel, and have another conversation, because I think that our, getting advice from our city council or our city attorneys before we move forward, even the first step, might be a good idea at this point. Because it sounds to me like there's more than one of us that isn't in love with this, and, going back to the attorneys at this point would be preferable, in my opinion, than moving forward and just hoping it gets better by the time we see it again.
Well, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Again, resisting, essentially interfering with police officers start off as, basis of resisting arrest and then expanded upon that. When you're looking at trying to deal with, every situation you deal with is never going to be exactly the same. Resisting allows officers to have discretion, the prosecutor as well, to have discretion in regards to making sure that essentially that people are cooperating with the police process. I actually don't have an issue with resisting. I think you do need to have some flexibility so you can deal with things on a case-by-case basis, and resisting has been a long-time definition of going along with obstruction of justice and interference with police officers in that regard. And if an officer is not engaging in a lawful command, then that's a defense to the charge. So if an officer shouldn't be doing something, then someone's not going to be found guilty, or we're not going to charge them for this matter. I'm someone who's actually spent 20 years as a defense attorney, and I've had cases where I've represented numerous people, many of them minorities, on resisting arrest and other charges that in other communities where my cases actually ended up with dismissals and the officers being fired. So as someone who's represented these kind of cases on both sides of the issue, I don't take any heed with the resisting language in the ordinance. I take heed with, we have to make sure our officers and the prosecutor are doing their jobs appropriately, and that's why we have defense counsel and hopefully police officers and prosecutors like myself who are acting ethically. And from my experience the last few years prosecuting the cases here locally, I think you have a very ethical, very good police department. And, we need to, for their own safety as well as the safety of the public, we need to make sure we have a little bit of opportunity to evaluate cases on a case-by-case basis instead of pigeonholing ourselves by so narrowly defining the ordinance that it becomes difficult to actually get prosecutions on these matters.
Yeah, Your Honor?
Okay. Yes.
Can normally I agree with my counterpart on the other side, but this one I have to disagree with. I think if this part of that ordinance, it doesn't mean that an officer is just going to run wild. No, that's not, you know what I mean? They're going to act, it's whether we trust our officers or we don't. And that, changing it is not going to make them do something they shouldn't be doing. We all trust our officers, and they're going to do the job, whether that's in or out or whatever, and they've done that, and they've proven themselves over and over, time and time again. And so I just think that I agree with what the attorney's saying, and again, it's just, do we trust them or we don't trust them?
Your
Okay,
Honor,
is there any, yes.
I'm going to disagree. I don't think it's about trust or not trust. And I think it's more a matter of can we do better? Maybe we can. And I don't know if this is I don't know if I'm ready to say, yes, let's do it exactly like this. I just don't know if it's ready. And I wonder if we should table it until a future meeting for advice of the attorneys.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Yes, please, Councilman Aaron.
When looking at what the state said, they do use both words, resisting and obstructing. So it gives you a little bit more room. I believe what the problem is just that one word, if we can add on to it exactly what is the definition of resist. So when I'm looking at state law, it says resisting or obstructing an officer in discharge of duty. So that gives a little bit more leverage and clarity to what is being said.
Okay, so I'm going to say it sounds like there are several people who want to go ahead with it, but not quite the way it is, and would like to see some changes. So, and that it more or less looks like state law, but not quite. And I don't know that I'm particularly ready to vote on this now when there's just a lot of wishy-washy kind ofs here. So, Counselor Rohrbach, you made the motion.
I'm making a motion to table until a future meeting based on advice from the attorneys.
Okay. So you're rescinding your original.
I'm rescinding the original
What is the proper
motion.
way here? How do we do this?
made a motion to table, you need a second to table it.
Okay, even though she made the original? Okay. So Counselor Rohrbach has made a motion to table this. Is there support to table this?
Your Honor, all support.
Okay, so, do we need to put a date on this, or is this something we can say, let's look at this, do we need a date on this to table
If
it?
you table it, it's indefinite. If you
Okay.
postpone it, you have to give us a date that you want it by.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Then we'll table it as you've requested, and Councilman Fleming, you're good, you're supporting that? All right. So all those in favor of tabling this to an indefinite date signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no.
No.
Okay, so we are going to table this. It has passed 6-1. All right. That's it. That's it for our regular session, so I now invite closing comments, starting with Councilwoman Aaron.
Thank you, Your Honor. This past weekend, or weekend before last, I had the opportunity to participate in a 5K with a nonprofit organization. And it was my first time participating in a 5K. No, I did not run, but I did walk. And I finished in 42 minutes, roughly. However, the 5K, the purpose of it was to bring awareness to not domestic violence, mental illness. And there were over 150 people that participated in this 5K, and the speakers were phenomenal. And they were talking about different things in different ways of how a city can come together to help curb the offense and with what's going on with mental illness, and didn't just look at it as mental illness as just a sickness, but also using different ways of how we can take self-care and being able to rejuvenate ourselves and making certain that we're healthy, mind, matter, and, full body. One of the things that really got me to thinking is because being a single mom and trying to take care of home and go to work every day, and I'm working and I'm on council and I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I have my small businesses that I'm doing, and you got church and you have all your other events going on, you have a tendency sometimes to lose yourself because you're so busy trying to make certain that everybody else is well that you forget about yourself as a woman. And as women, we need to make certain that we're number one. I used to say a long time ago that it was first God, then my son, then me. But I had to change that and say, it's God, me, then my son. Because I come to realize that if I'm not well, I cannot be a great mom to my son. I cannot be a great employer to my employer, a great councilwoman to this city. So we all, as women, we must take care of ourselves. And that race really brought a lot of things in perspective for me. Also, this coming Friday at 7 p.m. in the Civic Center Park Pavilion A, it's going to be a kids' concert where you can enjoy a fun concert featuring Rick and Dana, the playground duo. And they're just asking to bring your chair and a blanket and enjoy the music and dance. We have trail tours coming up, so this is something that's going to be fun for the kids, I believe. And then keep an ear open because come next month, the library, we will be hosting some adult financial education workshops. We're going to be teaming together with Michigan Schools and Government Credit Union. They're going to come in and supply, some information for us. They have a lot of series, so it's going to be a series, but we're going to start with 4 currently, which is raising a financially literate family, and that's from allowance guidelines to getting your first credit cards. I mean, many times we didn't know, we got our allowance and we spent it immediately. Then you start getting a credit card and you find yourself over the budget all the time, over the limit. How to buy homes, learning the secrets of successful home buying, including how to budget, pre-qualifications, inspections, and other valuable home purchasing tips. We'll be talking about loan and credit basics, and also how to grow money locally, stating that, we can take our personal finances and it can make an impact in our own neighborhood, and we can learn some small changes in how we can save and spend money to make a better community for all of us. And that is all I have for tonight.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Bliss?
Yes, Your Honor. In the note of making a better community for all of us, I think part of the challenge of what we do up here is that there's not necessarily a black and a white. And you saw that in that last ordinance vote. We can support 99% of it, but understanding that 1% and what potential future issues could arise from it, that's a big part of the job. And I think when we get into situations of, do you support the police? Of course I do. I support the DDA, and I still want to ask questions about the budget and how much we're spending and are we getting good value, because at some point down the road, none of us will be in these chairs, but a lot of these things that we're deciding are still going to be around. And so, I'm hoping that our legal team can come back with whether it's clarifying what resist means or clarify what it doesn't mean. That it doesn't mean stopping a peaceful protest with a law-abiding citizen. Like, what it doesn't mean is, I think, is critical here as we're trying to bring some clarity. And for me, I think that rushing some of these things doesn't make a lot of sense because it's going to be around for decades. It's the same thing we're dealing with right now. In Planning Commission, we're working through all of the zoning updates. It's a huge project. One of the things that has now taken 2 meetings for us talking about are the redesignating things like tattoo shops or spas or resale shops like Goodwill out of the special approval terrain, which would be something like a XXX bookstore. Those are all the same in our code right now. But taking it out of there, and then where does it go? And what is the appropriate placement for it? And what types of limitations do you want to put in? Those are all huge things. We could have rushed and we could have just put it out there. We could have made a change. But if we get it wrong, in 30 years, it's still going to be there wrong. So I think that that's a big part of what we're doing. I hate to say the word legacy, but I suppose as the council rep for Historical Commission, maybe that ties into it. None of us want to look back on our time on council and have something we could have prevented happen in the future. So my only other thing is a much happier note, though I do feel that's happy. I had the honor, as with many of you, to speak and to be there and celebrate Gary McGilvery, our county commissioner, former mayor, former council member. Gary has been serving the residents in our city longer than I've been alive. I've never known the city of Madison Heights without Gary McGilvery in some capacity making us better. And so I was really happy that not only were we able to dedicate that park to hopefully inspire that next generation of people to be like County Commissioner Gary McGilvery, but I think it was also, to me personally, great to see because we've now had 2 dedications that were posthumous. And this one was just great to be able to hand him that plaque and allow him to speak on his impact and to give quotes in the newspaper and to see his family there with him. I think it was important, and I'm looking forward to us doing more of that. That's it, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wright?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, I too was at that celebration, and it was fantastic to see all of Gary's family, his friends, former community leaders, current community leaders there to just celebrate the culmination of this community. So Gary gave back to the community and seeing, and he still is, he's a commissioner for Oakland County, so he's still giving back. So to see that and have him there was fantastic. I don't have a lot today. I just wanted to talk about the fantastic work the HREC is doing. Fantastic. The HREC, the Human Relations and Equity Commission, I'm happy that that language for this ordinance went back to them to see, because that was one of the things that the HRIC was challenged with, is making sure that our language is equitable and it is fair. And even if after it is reviewed, we still move forward with it, that's okay. But just to have that sanity check to touch base with people, I think is fantastic, and I think it works. So I hope that we continue to do that, continue to put in sanity checks. And I mean, we talked, Councilman Toya talked about mental health, and it's important, and it happens that way to ensure that we do things that are equitable and fair. And so as a part of that, the HREC is having a tour of Detroit on August 2nd, and we're also going to have two talks on the 26th and August 2nd around Metro Detroit and Jewish culture and community. And I think it's a fantastic opportunity for everyone to come together, learn a little bit more about Jewish culture and history in Detroit, and learn more about Metro Detroit, and learn more about our neighbors here in Madison Heights. So I just want to invite everyone out to that. Come on out for the 26th. It's going to be hosted by the HRC, and we're going to have our friends from the Jewish Historical Society coming out. So that's going to be on the 26th, is the first presentation. The second one is August 2nd, and the bus tour is August 6th. Please come on out, and just remember to be kind.
All right, thank you. Mr. Burns?
I'm here today because Larry is expecting a new grandchild, and I'm sure you'll be an update at the next meeting on his new experiences as being a grandpa yet again.
Thank you. Mrs. Marsh?
Just one thing. So the city, for the first time, is doing volunteer awards. They are called At Your Service Awards, and we are looking for nominations, so anybody can nominate someone. There's actually 4 categories, and they are due by August the 25th. So the first category is Business of the Year. So if you have a business in Madison Heights that gives you wonderful service or goes above and beyond, please nominate them. Next is Volunteer of the Year, Outstanding Neighbor Award, and the Madison Heights Spirit Award. So you can email us your nominations, you can print out the PDF form and bring it in, mail it in, email it in, or you can also submit it online. That's it.
All right, thank you. Anything from the clerk's office this evening?
Yes, I just wanted to remind everybody that in August, we'll be having our semi-annual appointments to the boards and commissions. So if you're interested in serving on any of the boards, you can find a list of vacancies on our city website as well as an application.
Thank you. Councilor Rohrbach?
Yes, first I just want to mention, on Saturday, we had the ADA Pride Month celebration and community art project out here in Civic Center Park. It was a great event for anybody that came. You got to actually contribute to painting this giant mural that we're going to be, it's going to be finished and installed at the library. We also got to celebrate the many artists who are individuals with disabilities from across the state who submitted artwork to be displayed in our library. Those pieces of art are going to remain there through the end of the month. And so they're in the back room. When you walk into the library, it's all the way near the back, our beautiful kind of gallery space back there. Really cool stuff, and I'll mention that it is all for sale. So one of the things that we love about this is that all of the artwork that is back there is created by Michigan-based artists with disabilities, many of them from right in this area, and a lot of them work with a program that encourages people with disabilities to really focus on developing their skills so that they can help to support themselves with the sale of their own art. And so it's a great program, and it's a great opportunity for us to support individuals in this community. We call it ADA Pride Month because in July 26th is the day that the national government passed the Americans with Disabilities Act way back in 1996, I think, 86. Now I can't remember. But it was some time ago, but a lot of folks in the disability community celebrate that every year as a time to celebrate their own abilities and their contribution to society. So please check that out. It was a wonderful event. It's going to be so exciting to see the beautiful mural that was created by everybody that came out in this community and from beyond. So I'm really excited to talk about it and for you guys all to experience it, especially when that mural gets installed at the library. I'll also mention that McGilvery Park is very exciting to be able to call it McGilvery Park from now on. And it's just down the street from my folks' house, and I walk there whenever we're down at their house, and it's just a lovely park, and it's going to have many, many years of enjoyment, and I'm excited that we can honor Gary. He was one of the very first people that kind of mentored me when I first came into politics. He was always able to answer questions, and always willing to give me a encouragement or ask me questions to help me understand better what was going on, and that's always really helpful, and I will never be able to thank him enough for that. The Parks and Rec meeting, the Parks and Rec Board and the Environmental Citizens Committee both met in the last couple of weeks. A lot of different discussions, but one of the things I wanted to mention is that the Madison Heights golf outing is coming up on August 4th. Golfers, foursomes, all of that stuff is available, and the proceeds from that go to help fund our Parks and Rec programs and the services and potentially, there's a bunch of things. Brooke listed like 1,000 things that the money goes to. But what near and dear to me is especially like provide scholarships for individuals in our community that want to participate in recreational activities but can't necessarily afford to register. So that is a really special thing that we can do. And those of us that golf, I do not, will really enjoy something like that. So please check it out. I believe right in here at the by the clerk's office, there's some brochures on the table, so you can check that out, and on the city website as well. That's all for tonight.
All right, thank you. Councilman Fleming?
Yeah, good evening. So I want to say that I'm really excited for the streetscape project that's going to happen on 11 Mile. At first, I thought it was only happening from John R. to Lorenz, but now to hear that it's going to be happening all the way down 11 Mile, that's really, really awesome stuff. And I really think that the renderings will look great, and I'm looking forward to all the community participating in the changes going forward. Also, another way that you can get help for yourself in some situations that you may come by is calling 211, which is a United Way program that links you with other organizations, and they're 24 hours a day. They connect you with the organizations that can help you, whether you're getting food or shelter or mental health or anything else like that. And it's a really great program that's open 24 hours a day for emergency purposes or just, whenever you want to call. I'll be having some office hours as usual on Tuesdays after the meetings, which will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. to noon at the library. And then also, there's an issue with the animal licenses at the county that I've seen online. People posted about them being charged kind of like a late fee for having their animal be registered the first time. And so I'm going to be looking into that to see if it's a glitch or they supposedly didn't have all of our licenses uploaded to the database just yet, so they don't know about your pets, your dogs. And so I'm going to be looking into that further to see if I can resolve that with the help of city manager or whoever else. And then also there's openings on the crime commission. So if you're interested in August, put your name in and we'll see if we can appoint somebody. We need like 2 more people. So that's it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Soltis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for State Senator showing up. I'm going to use my time to make a complaint, I guess, about at Lansing. In particular, there's They adopted a state budget for kids in 2024 fiscal year. Did nothing for abuse and neglect. And in fact, one of the MichiganChildren.org executive directors said that it was very disappointing that wasn't part of the budget. And so I did a couple child poverty report and then a couple maltreatment reports. And again, the state hasn't taken a position on, or hasn't done anything about the Inspector General's scathing report, and it was probably done about 4 or 5 years ago. And in terms of the CPS being in disarray in Michigan. But I just, that's just all I wanted to say about that. Maybe afterwards we can talk about it, but that's all, thank you.
All right, thank you. So I've got a few things. One of them is, so when we had our last meeting, I invited everyone to greet Jack Huffman, who was a veteran walking from Centerline, who was walking from Florida to Rochester Hills a few days later. And so a number of people came out. We had some of the members of the DDA. We had Miss Nini brought her daycare kids, and was able to collect some donations for the fallen and wounded warrior from some of our local businesses. So I want to thank everyone for that. When this was brought to me a couple of months ago, I reached out to City Manager Marsh and I said, where can we do this? And she said, oh, well, Fire Station 2 will be finished. We can do something there. So we did. We weren't sure how long we were going to be, so Wilkinson was kind enough to offer up their parking lot as well. So we had part of the presentation over at the fire station, then we crossed the street to Wilkinson. So I want to say thank you to Madison School District for allowing us to do that. And I also want to invite everyone to the official ribbon cutting of Fire Station number 2. It is going to be August 21st at 5:30. So I think we have one meeting before that, so we'll remind you again, but just want to get that out there for everyone. With respect to the DDA, I want to thank Council for approving that. DDA has been around since 1997. Many people still don't know about it. I myself didn't know until 2016 when I was participating in a community discussion about what we wanted the DDA to look like. People still ask me, where is it? And I say, do you know where the Royal Oak Farmers Market is? And they say, oh yeah, I know where that is. And I say, well, go a mile east. And they sit there and they try and picture it. So there's been a lot of conversations about what we want to do. And the bottom line is we have different ideas. A lot of us have similar ideas, but until we actually have the plan, and we're going to have the plan. You know, this is something that is going to get us the plan, because we're going to have engineers who are going to tell us why we can and can't do things that we want to do. I'm not an engineer. If I want to put something, it needs to be explained that no, there's this, that, and the other, the reasons we can't. So I appreciate council approving that, and I appreciate the work that the DDA has been doing for the last few years. I mean, even longer that I was on, but just in the last few years, we've had multiple conversations about this. And thank you, Giles, for working with the vendors to be able to set this up for us. Councilwoman Aaron, thank you for telling us about the financial literacy workshops. Those are really important. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm a chartered financial analyst. Planning for businesses, planning for individuals, it's all really important. And it is something that the younger that we can teach our kids about this, the more we can teach our kids, the more responsible and financially literate adults they're going to be. So I think this is great. And thank you, Councilman Bliss, or Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, for talking about what we're doing with the Planning Commission. There's a lot of things, again, we're going over what's the definition of a spa, what's the definition of a massage. And so back in the day, you did not want to have a massage parlor. You didn't want someone who was doing a massage. There was just such a negative and sexual connotation to that. But now, myself and many other people go to a chiropractor's office and they get a massage, and it's just part of what they do, and nobody thinks twice about it. My mother did massage, and she had a number of certifications that allowed her to do that. And so this is what we're looking at, and we're really getting into the nitty-gritty of where is it okay, what is it not okay, and what does it mean. So, the conversation that went on tonight regarding what does that mean to be resisting arrest, we're looking at this because we want to make sure that what we're doing is something that's going to be to the best benefit of our residents, and we want to make it easier for our police and for our attorneys as well. And we don't want to get sued, and but we also want to make sure that it's being done properly. And if that means that we're going to take another few weeks to look at this again, then that means we're going to take another few weeks and we're going to look at it again. And I don't think that any of this is saying we don't support our police. I think that we all do support our police, but we want to make sure that everything is being done properly and in a way that makes sense, so that 20, 30 years from now, when this gets looked at again, we know what's going on with it. It was my honor last week to be at McGillivray Park. It was great to see Gary's granddaughter. She helped me with when we did the official unveiling of it. It was great to see that. He has a wonderful family, and it was so nice to have them all there. I live around the corner from there, and so when my kids were little, I think that's how they learned how to spell, is we would say, what do you think? Should we take the kids to the PARK? And at one point, the kids started going, hey, can we do that thing where we go to the PARK? And I'm like, they know how to spell park. All right. So, and that's what we would do. We would go to the park. And so I think it's great that, that we're getting the renaming of that. And I went by the other day and it's up. So I love that. And then on a final note, the last weekend, I am not an artist. Anyone who has seen my chicken scratch knows I'm not an artist, but the disability art program that we had here in honor of the July 26, 1990 Disability Act, that was great because it was just this blank canvas. There were some outlines on it, and when I got there, there was some that was drawn in, and I sort of hid over here, and I drew my little area, and it looks like someone took what I did, and then they added on to that, and so what started as a relatively blank canvas just blossomed. Well, everybody just took a little section and did their own little thing, so I'm excited to see the final draft. I don't know when that's going to be, but
It's done.
soon?
It's
Okay.
done.
So soon we'll see it?
Installation.
Okay, so I'm excited to see that. So I appreciate having that here. And just with talking with them, this is the first time something like that has happened in Michigan. So that was really great that we were able to bring that here. But before I did that, I was over at Wilkinson, had their first open air market, and I was able to walk around and to sort of see different things that were there. I bought myself a filing cabinet. There's just a lot of things that were there, and I was also able to chat with Paige, our new animal control officer. So, she seems to be really on the ball with that. So that is it for me. Our next meeting is going to be August 14th. The time is 8:44, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Good night.
1 minute. 1 minute.